Hi guys, I'm going to start reading the next part of Runaway Ralph. We are in the middle of chapter 2 called The Open Road. He would show Matt that he could manage without help. Matt would come out in the morning expecting to find Ralph waiting to be let in, but Ralph would fool him. He wouldn't be waiting, and there wouldn't be any broken motorcycle at the foot of the steps either. Ralph set about finding a solution to his problem. He looked at the ghostly rocking chairs, the cracked concrete porch, the steps, and the asphalt driveway below. Once Ralph had taken the trouble to look, the solution to getting his motorcycle down the steps seemed surprisingly easy. About 3 inches below the porch, on either side of the steps, was a sloping section of concrete, a sort of ramp intended as the edge to the steps. The 2 ramps were about 10 inches wide and each sloped down to a flat section. Below each flat section was a shrub that had been pruned into somewhat of a lopsided ball of leaves. All Ralph had to do was ride his motorcycle over the edge, down the slope, and into the shrub, which would break his fall and let him slide gently through the leaves to the ground. The only problem was that terrifying 3-inch drop from the porch to the slanting concrete. But Ralph was sure that with a cool head and steady paws, he could manage. He would show old Matt a thing or two. Ralph wheeled the motorcycle back from the edge of the porch, but in line with one of the concrete ramps. High speed would be best, he decided. Speed fast enough to carry him over the edge without wobbling so that he would land on the ramp on both wheels. Ralph's heart was pounding as he mounted his motorcycle, but his head was cool and his paws steady on the handle grips. Ralph drew a deep breath, and his paws tightened on the handle grips. He rode smoothly toward the edge of the porch, and he held his breath as he shot out into space as he had planned. There was a sudden heart-shaking drop before his tires hit the ramp, and at this point, everything went wrong. Before Ralph realized what was happening, the motorcycle shot down the ramp, which was worn smooth by many children who had slid down it. And here's a picture of Ralph. Ralph flew into the air and fell upside down into the shrub. He lost his grip on the motorcycle and he felt himself brushed by leaves and scratched by twigs until he came to rest, wedged into the small part of a branch. His helmet had fallen off. One ear was scratched and he was badly frightened, but he was not injured. When Ralph had caught his breath and his heart no longer pounded against his ribs, he boosted himself up so that he was sitting in the small part of the twig. The shrub was not the leafy cushion he had expected. From his perch in the center, he could see that the leaves grew only at the tips of the twigs and that the bush, which had looked soft and springy from the outside, was on the inside leafless and spiky with dead twigs. His motorcycle, thought Ralph frantically. Where is it? Then he saw it, far above his head, hanging on a twig by its back wheel. His helmet, however, had bounced to the ground. Ralph did the only thing he could do, and that was to climb up to his motorcycle and start chewing. The twig that held the motorcycle had a dry and dusty taste, but Ralph chewed it until it snapped, and the motorcycle slid down to the small part of the twig below. Ralph climbed down, and when he could not free the motorcycle with his paws, he started chewing once more. No little cousin was ever going to say to him, "What happened to your motorcycle, Ralph? Huh? What happened to your motorcycle?" So Ralph chewed on his motorcycle from one twig to the next, and the lower he went, the thicker the twigs became. By the time the motorcycle finally dropped to the ground beside the helmet, Ralph's jaws ached. He dragged the motorcycle across the weedy patch of lawn to the driveway and was about to mount when the door of the hotel unexpectedly opened, and old Matt, in his pajamas and bathrobe, stepped out onto the porch and he looked around. The little fellow must have managed to get his motorcycle down the steps somehow, Ralph heard Matt mutter to himself. Now maybe I can get some sleep. Ha! I guess I showed you, thought Ralph grimly as he mounted his motorcycle and he sped off down the open road into the dark and scary night. Here's a picture of Ralph. So long, brothers, sisters, cousins. So long, Uncle Lester. So long, Matt. Ralph was on his way. Ralph bounced along the uneven driveway to the mountain highway, where he quickly discovered that one of the ribbons of concrete pressed smooth by passing tires made a good highway for a mouse. He then made an even more exciting discovery: gravity. With a good fast start, he could coast downhill with amazing speed. The halls of the Mountain View Inn were never like this. Ralph sped through a night that fulfilled his dreams of freedom. It was a night of danger and adventure. Once, when Ralph was frightened by the headlights of an approaching car, he swerved to the side of the road where he and his motorcycle were caught in the backdraft of the passing car, and he tumbled about like old gum wrappers and tossed into the weeds. Afterward, Ralph was alert when he heard a car approaching, and he got off the road and he clung to a weed until the car roared past. He was exhilarated by this test of his skill. Toward dawn, logging trucks began to rumble down the mountain, shaking the earth as they came. Ralph never had seen anything so terrifying as those great double-tired monsters with logs lashed to their truck beds, barreling down the center of the highway. And he knew the time had come to hide for the day. He ate some dusty weed seeds, he drank some dew, and he slept under a leaf, and he started off once more at nightfall toward the sound of the bugle. Between cars and trucks, Ralph tore along down the highway through the shadows of the night. This ride was the freedom he had dreamed of. Speed without effort. Once the thought crossed his mind that if he should ever want to return to the Mountain View Inn, he could never make it back up the mountain under his own power. What a silly thought. Why should he ever want to go back to the inn when he could travel this way? On the third night of Ralph's journey, as darkness faded and the pine trees gave way to scrub oak, Ralph found himself out in the open where there were no sheltering shadows. A milk truck rattled past on its way to the Mountain View Inn. Blackbirds greeted the dawn with bursts of gurgling songs, and not far away, a rooster crowed. A pheasant flew low across the road, startling Ralph and causing him to collide with a piece of gravel. The road, which now followed an irrigation ditch, had leveled off, and Ralph had to produce his own power. And as Ralph putted along on his motorcycle, daylight made him uneasy. He was looking for a place to hide when the notes of the bugle, so close he felt as if they might shatter him, burst forth in the lively morning tune. Before they died away, laughter and shouts filled the air. Medium-sized boys and girls, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Ralph had reached his destination. Ralph wished Matt could see him as he rode off the road and bounced onto a gravel lane that crossed a small bridge over the irrigation ditch. Ahead lay a number of low, weathered buildings surrounded by lawn and shaded by walnut trees. Boys and girls were washing their faces in wash basins set on benches. A big brown dog, barking ferociously, came bounding toward Ralph, who stopped, frozen with terror. The dog stopped too, and suddenly he nearly sat down in the gravel. He recovered himself and approached, sniffling with his wet, black nose. And that is where we're going to end today, friends. We are still in the middle of chapter 2 called The Open Road. Dun, dun, dun. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.